Okay, hello everyone, and let's wait for a minute or two more so people can join. I will start in 1 minute. Okay, thank you everyone for joining, and let me share my screen. Please confirm if you can see screen with the presentation, which is called CISSP Non-Manager View. I am not really able to read the chat. And one more disclaimer, the camera in the laptop and the screen on the top side. So I will look at on the top of the camera, and my eyes will not be directly target the camera on the laptop. So I hope there is no issue with that. So again, thank you everyone for joining, and let's start my webinar. My webinar called CISSP Non-Manager View. I decided to call it like that because I was never have a position as a manager. However, I have a large experience as IT professional, and I think there is a good reason to introduce myself a little bit in the beginning, and then we will go through the agenda. So, colleagues, my name is Alexander Buzavluk. I have more than 10 years of IT experience among different industries and among the different worldwide companies. By industries, I mean the type, more the not like industries, but the type of businesses. I was a part of a telecommunication company. I was part of a big software vendor, which is Oracle, and now I'm on the customer side, working at DRII company, who are unicorn startup as a ride-hailing company. I started my IT career as a data center engineer and field engineer by have a duty responsibilities for the data center flows, and also installing some racks, like following and watching for the air conditioning and the humidity systems and all this racks, equipment, physical stuff, accesses, and also testing the circuits end to end, and so on. Then I worked for a while as a project and pre-sale manager, and in 2020 I joined Oracle as a solution engineer for their cloud platform for IaaS and the PaaS services. And during my work time in the Oracle, there was a lot of colleagues, not a lot of colleagues, but some colleagues obtained CISSP certification, and they advised me to look closer into it because it fit with my experience quite well. And also one of my responsibilities at Oracle was to explain and describe about Oracle database security options, and also Oracle identity and access management products. Solution engineer in the Oracle is the same as a pre-sale, so some kind of technical pre-sale guy. I was responsible to present the products to the customers more from the technical perspective, to provide business values and explain it on the business language, and also on the technical language to administrators and database administrators and some other technical stuff of the customers. So I learned about CISSP certification from my colleagues, and I took my time to look closer into it. And from the first day, I decided that this is really interesting, and this is cover a lot of a big amount of information, and it will help me to structure my knowledges about all the IT and security. I took the course by this is like one week intensive course, 40 hours with a trainer. They pass us through all the certification within 5 days, within 5 days, and then I got a voucher also. It was a February of 2022. Then the wars happened, and a lot of other businesses which I have done with, and also Pearson VUE left Russia, so I decided to postpone my certification. And later, when I relocated to Kazakhstan and changed my job, I decided to come back to CISSP and started to self-paced preparation, self-paced training, tried to get exam once in January, and the first time I have failed, but this doesn't disappoint me. This gave me additional motivation to focus on the areas where I have failed, and this was a domain 3 and mostly domain 3 and domain 8. I will talk about the domains in more details a little bit later. So I tried, I bought another voucher by my own in the end of March, and tried to learn it with another techniques, and I passed exam in the May 30 of May 2023, so not so long time ago. I have a fresh experience about the certification. This was a great journey for me, and my goal for today is to share with you, share my experience, how I prepared for exam, explain the important topics about the exam, go through the domains, and give you some hints and maybe some what you can expect on the real exam. Well, a little bit disclaimer, I understand that this is only a testimonial evidence, like the personal story. This is not a big group research or like meta-analysis. This is not a strong scientific proof, as you know, but still, I guess my personal experience will be useful and relevant for many people who want to become CISSP, because all of us in one way or another are going through all the steps. So I also obtained some, I also have some vendor certificates, such as Oracle Professional Cloud Certificate and Autonomous Database, and also I have a certification in identity management field. This is mostly related to my current position as identity and access management analyst. Well, this was a part about me, about my experience and my journey briefly to the CISSP certification. Let's go to the further content, and let's look through the agenda. Well, I will talk about CISSP value and then go through the domains. I also want to cover a topic which I named CISSP and English, because I am not an English native speaker, and for me it was a big deal, and I want to share my experience also. Then we will talk about CISSP mindset, which also usually called as think like a manager, and I will give you some preparation hints, and also we will discuss what you can really expect on the real exam. So coming back to the CISSP value. First of all, let's speak about the certification body, or like the vendor who are owner of these certificates. And this is an organization which is called ISC squared. I have this presentation from them, and I asked them if I can use these slides, and they said definitely yes, you can use it if you want to tell about us to your colleagues or audience. So this is onboarding webinar for onboarding presentation for new CISSP members. So who is ISC squared? ISC squared is the largest non-profit membership association, and they of certified cybersecurity professionals. They have currently more than 400,000 members, I guess, and they working with the business and governments, and their goal is to provide most recognized, most I would say famous and most valuable professional security certification and education for the IT professionals. As I said, this is a large organization, multi-countries, worldwide organization, and they have also their own code of ethics, which is really important. And we will talk about this code in more details a little bit later, because it's directly connected and related to the certification. You actually can expect some questions which involve this code of ethics. So if you want to become a member of ISC squared, the exam is not only the thing which you need to do. It's not the only part. You also should comply with the code of ethics, and you also should to confirm your work experience, which we'll cover a little bit later also. And now, when we talked about vendor body, certification body of the vendor, let's come to the CISSP certification exam itself. CISSP, here again, we have the official documentation, which is called CISSP exam outline. In English, 2021 version. I guess this is the latest one, and this is available on the official site. I will attach all these PDFs into my follow-up mail. So CISSP, this is a Certified Information System Security Professional by ISC squared. What do you what is this exam about? What is the structure of this exam, and what you can expect there? Well, first, CISSP is the certification which have a point, a target by itself to cover all the security, all the IT security, and not only IT. So they cover all the aspects, all of the domains about the security itself. So the goal of the organization of the ISC squared was to create the certification which will cover everything which you need to know about the security. And here you can ask who is you, like which you need to know. Well, the target audience for CISSP originally it started in 1989, and later originally it was a senior management, a senior security management, like chief security officer, chief information security officer, chief technology officer, and such kind of senior management level people, and their direct advisors, their consultants. So this was a target audience for this exam: managers and their consultants. But later, during the time, like the community of the professionals recognized that actually this certification can be valuable for like every IT professional who wants to have a broad understanding about all of the topics, all of the aspects of IT security, and including myself. I found this this certification and this amount of knowledge, amount of information are very useful for me because it structure technologies very well. It cover the topics and give you a better understanding about each aspect, from starting from the physical level and ending in on like a secure software development, and a lot of things are covered in the governance level and risk management analysis and so on. CISSP currently it contains 8 domains into it. So they are security and risk management, asset security, architecture and engineering, communication and network security, identity and access management, which is probably my most lovely one, security and assessment testing, security operations, and software development security. In the past, there was 10 domains, as I know, but they reconfigured these domains and make it 8. There was a separate physical security domain, but now it's included among all of these domains, especially in the domain number 3 and domain number 5. As I told you already, you're not only required to pass the exam. So the passing the exam, it will be the first step. You also need to confirm your work experience. To get the membership in the organization, you need to pass the exam and then confirm that you have 5 years relevant experience. By relevant experience, I mean you have to be hired on the paid basis, and during your work you should cover at least you should work with at least 2 of these domains. There is some specific exclusions which can be made here. For example, if you have professional education, you can achieve 1 year of necessary experience, and you will only need to confirm 4 years. But the usual rule, you have to be able to confirm that you have 5 relevant experience of professional work within at least 2 of these domains. So let's go further and coming deep into the type of exam itself. So currently, in nowadays, CISSP is the test. It's called computer adaptive test. In the past, it was like a written exam in the paper, physically written exam. Later, it was a test, a computer test, and now it's called computer adaptive test. And this is a big deal, and you have to understand that there is no such kind of computerized adaptive test in other vendors or like vendor independent exams. This is a really unique experience. What does it actually mean? Computerized adaptive test. This means that every question, starting from the first one, the system, the intelligence behind the test will try to rate your answer. If you and it will give you next question in accordance how you answered on the previous. For example, they will try to make a guess, 50-50 guess, if you will understand correct, or if you will answer correctly on next question, or if you will answer incorrectly. So meaning, if you have a first question and then you gave the right answer, the next question will be probably harder, and the system will check you again. If you answered several times correctly on the row of the questions, exam can be finished before the last question. So the minimum amount of the question is 125, and the maximum amount is 175 questions. In my own experience, I had 175 questions on my first attempt when I failed, and 150 questions on my second attempt when I passed the exam. What is actually happening when you passing 125 and exam is continuous? That means that the system is not sure if you are able to obtain this passing rate or you're not, and the exam trying to give you questions within the topics which you have answered not correctly in the previous set of questions, and they will give you more questions on these topics, trying to rate you if you can obtain points or not. If you will not, the exam will finish with fail. If yes, then you can still pass. Speaking about the passing grade, well, this 700 to 1000 points actually doesn't mean anything useful for you, because the questions itself have a different weight, different rate. So meaning for some of the question you can get 10 points, and for other questions which are considered as hardest, you can get, for example, 30 points. They are ISC² doesn't share this information with you. Moreover, if you will fail the exam or if you pass exam, they will not share any specific results with you. They only can, if you will pass exam, you will not know how many points you actually got, and you will, of course, you will not get the list of the questions if you answered correctly or not. And same with if you will fail exam again, you will not know how much points you actually get. They only will give you a list with the topics where you were good and where you were not so good. They have a 3 grades there. The beyond necessary level of knowledge, near knowledge, and the third one is not behind the level of knowledge. I don't remember exactly how it's called, but 3 grades there. So all of these rules have some consequences. For example, the most important for you to understand that there is no option to go back. In a lot of testings, you can choose mark the question and come to them in the end, or just skip that if you're not sure and check it later. Here is not an option. You always should give some answer, and you will have no chance to go back and recheck. And this is considered to make exam much harder. The good news that according to some researchers, your first choice are usually the correct one. So as I know, it's 80 or 90% true, and only 10% are not true, meaning if that your first choice is with 90% of probability is correct choice, and you have only 10% that you will that your first choice is not correct one. So, but it doesn't help when you are in real exam. Sometimes you always want to skip the question and come back to this question later. So the first thing which you should consider, and which is really big deal, there is no chance to go back. You always have to give an answer. The second thing, you see you have 125 questions to 175 questions, but they are not all of these questions are real questions. you only will be graded, you only will be rated with 75 of these questions, 75 to 125, meaning that 50 questions in this pool are not rated. They are not graded and not rated. Doesn't mean if you answer correctly or not correctly, you will have 0 points for them. And moreover, in these questions, you can see the topics which were not covered in the studying materials. They doing, I see Squared do it for researching and for understanding which topics can be included in the future exams. But for you, that means that you will see some questions and you will not have an answers for them, and you will understand that there was no information about this in learning materials, or maybe I forgot, or maybe there was some. So this give you additional additional layer of confusion during exam. And in my point, in my opinion, this is also makes exam harder, because these questions are confusing you, and there is a lot of these questions, actually more than a half. So more than half questions are not graded and related to the topics which were not covered in learning materials. So be aware about that. And now another point. Here is the weights of the domains itself. So the security and risk management have 15%, which is the largest one, and other like very closer to each other. But here is some trick. If you want to pass the exam, you need to have a minimal passing grade through all of the domains. That means that you cannot, for example, obtain like 900 points in this one, and this one, and this one, and here you have only 200, for example, or here you will fail because they are expecting from you that you should show the acceptable level of knowledge among all of the domains. And this is what this certification about. They expecting that CISSP as a professional have to have understanding about all of the aspects, all of the domains of security, so you can be a trusted person, a manager who really understand how to build strong security in the organization. That's why they are expecting that you will have acceptable level of knowledge, passing rate in all of the domains. So I would say this is a third point where which makes this exam harder. The first one was way back, then not real questions, which is 50, and then you have to know all the domains. You cannot know only like 7 or 6 of them and have a better understanding in other 2. Here now you have an understanding about the test itself, but let's go further and speak about the content. So what ISC squared are expecting from you to know in these domains, what they are about. And here is the info about the linear examination, but we will not cover that. But I advising you to go to the Pearson view and take the computerized adaptive test, but because this will this is like the modern and the latest way which ISC squared choose to provide the exam. So let's speak about domains itself. The first one is security and risk management. You can expect here the basics about the theory, the CIA DRII, yeah, about the ethics. You can also expect in here that they will ask you to know the law requirements, know what crimes are considered as a cyber crimes. They also will expect from you that you will know the legal industry standards, that you will know what due diligence means. There's some security control frameworks, and that law itself, the regulations itself about the intellectual property, the privacy, and other topics. This is one of the largest topics, and the questions here are not very technical, but they are usually very tricky. They will give you some situation and ask you, for example, what will be the best way to solve it, or like what is the least effective way. And usually you will have like at least 2 or 3 options which are okay, but you still should to choose the best or worst from them. But we will cover these types of questions a little bit later also. Let's go through the domains first. The domain number 2 is asset security. Asset security, this is about assets, right? About data assets, systems assets, about how you control your data, how you classify it, how you actually control of the life cycle, where you store it, how you will destroy the data, what should be the retention period, what methods you should use to, for example, for effective data destruction, yeah. What actually are the assets, what is it, tangible assets, intangible assets, what is the valuable assets, because you know in the organization you can have the really valuable assets, for example, the customer data, or like source code, and you can have like the assets like I don't know, pens or paper, which is usually not considered as a so valuable assets to put efforts to protect it. Here you can also expect the information about the knowledge about the data protection methods such as digital rights management or DLP systems, or CISSP, CISSP systems, which is a cloud brokers, yeah, which allows you to set up the same baselines in the cloud as you have in your on-premise requirements, for example. Let's go to domain number 3, the briefly description. These domains are usually considered as the most hardest and most technical domain in the CISSP, security architecture and engineering. And I will agree with this opinion that this one is most hardest from the technical perspective. You have the really big amount of different type of topics and information here, starting from these security models, which are very high level of abstractions, how you can the basics, how you can build the security in the organization, like based on confidentiality or integrity, or some mixing of it and else. These concepts usually give you like the big confusion, and same was for me. I spent some time to learn more about it and really understand like what the hell it is really is. There is also a lot of like the security design principles, which are covered in this domain, like least privileges and defense in depth and zero trust, privacy by design, and so on. By the way, they included here trust by verify, but trust but verify, but this is considered like no longer secure. Nowadays you usually should use this one, like the zero trust model. And then that's only the beginning. Yeah, there is a lot of things about the physical computing here, like how it's actually works, how this actually works, about the cloud services, about the client-based systems, the type of, I don't know, RAM memory which they are, and something like trusted platform modules, hardware secure base, and Internet of Things. So very, very large amount of different topics are covered here. And you also should have understanding about each of these concepts, and even such things of containerization and different type of hypervisors are also covered here. Well, and going through another big part of domain number 3, it's cryptography. So you should be familiar with symmetric cryptography, with asymmetric cryptography, with different algorithms, how they work, how the PKI works. You should understand how it's actually works. You should understand the difference between the different algorithms, what can be the cryptanalytic attacks, how you can what controls you can implement to protect from them, and all of these things. So really large topic. And also, not last but not least, yeah, there is some things about the physical security here, the power, the heating, ventilation, and air conditioning, yeah, environmental issues, how you actually to design your facility from the physical perspective, how you should design your data center, like the fire prevention. They can ask you about the different type of fires, which can, and which suppressions can be used in the different type of fires. Because, for example, in some for example, in electricity-based fire, you obviously cannot use water, yeah, and some systems are using gas, and you cannot use gas in the environment where you have people, because they are actually removing the oxygen from the room, yeah. But it's very common in the server rooms, in the data centers, and so on. So all of these things are also covered in domain number 3. Really big domain and important one. The domain number 4 is about the networks, about the designing and understand how to build the secure network perimeter. Here you will definitely need to be familiar with this famous interconnection frameworks, yeah, with OSI framework, with TCP/IP stack of protocols. You will also be provided with a lot of protocols itself. They will in the learning materials, they will cover how these protocols works, with not very deep level of details, but still you will need to know what is DNS for and what is IPsec for, and which layer they are belong into in these models, and where you should actually use them to do what. And you should also understand the type of the network devices, what is the differences between the router, the switch, the hub, what type of firewalls you can expect in the modern networks. Yeah, what are the difference between the firewalls, and also a lot of topics about the wireless networks, including the really unexpected level of details. For example, I was surprised where they described what type of antennas presented in nowadays, yeah, for these wireless networks. Like, I mean, the type, I mean, how they look like, what is the geometry, and why they looks like they look, and also about the satellites here, about the cellular networks, about the modern concepts like a software-defined network, content distribution network. Well, this is about the networking and securing the information flow. This domain can be considered as a very how I would figure out, it's very specific one. It's very tied to the roles. For example, if you are a network professional, if you like have some network architect experience or experience in configuration of network devices, you can expect that this domain will be easier for you to understand and to memorize than others. So it's like deeply tied in with networking. And let's go further with domain number 5. Domain number 5, this is about the accesses, right? About identity and access management. What does it mean? That here they're expecting from you that you will be familiar with the things like access control models, like role-based model, discretion access control model, yeah, attribute-based model. You can also expect here that you will be familiar with such things like just-in-time provisioning, single sign-on, where it should be used, why it should be used, what is this, what is MFA, what's type of different factors of authentication you can have. You will be expected to know about something you know, something you have type, something you are type of authentication. Also the physical part of authentication are covered here, such as proximity cards, the magnetic stripes, the locks. Well, overall, this domain are talking about how you providing access, how object can, how subjects can have access to the objects. If you will talk generally about it, well, actually how your employees or your like systems, how they should have access to your like information or non-information assets. And here you can even expect it to you can expect here that you should know about the modern standards of authorization and authentication, such as in on-premise environment, like Kerberos, and cloud environment, and as I said before, single sign-on systems and others. So quite interesting domain. For me, this one was easiest one because I have a like day by day experience with all of these topics. But if you are not familiar with all these concepts, you should definitely spend your time to focus more on this one also. Let's go through and to domain number 6, which called security and assessment and testing. For me, domain number 6 and domain number 7 was like a mystery one, the hidden one. When I started my learning, I didn't really understand what they are actually about. But now, of course, I understand what they are really making give you some confusion in the beginning. Well, domain number 6, this is about the auditing how your security controls work in the organization. Here they will cover such topics as validate assessments internally, third parties, third-party external, conduct the control testing. Here you can use, you can expect some content about which type of software testing presented, which tools you can use for like penetration tests, for your network scans, how to organize the assessment and testings, how to analyze it, how to conduct and facilitate security audits, yeah. And also there's some information about such things like a disaster recovery and business continuity tests, especially the type of disaster recovery. I have several questions about disaster recovery in the real exam, so you should definitely focus on this topic also, because it looks like they will include it more and more into nowadays exams and into the later versions of exams. Well, at least I have such kind of feeling that these topics are really important one. So audits and testings. This is domain number 6, and domain number 7 called security operations. Here I can say that they mean by that they mean operations, meaning daily, day-by-day security routine, how you should build your day-by-day work, how you should deal with security incidents. They provide you several special frameworks, how to implement the need to know, how to implement the list segregation of duties procedures, how you can how you can implement privileged account management, what is CM systems for, how you can monitor the processes, like the monitoring types, and what tools you can use to monitor, for example, user behavior systems, and so on. Well, overall, how you should how your security should work on day-by-day basis. What is modern concepts, what is best practices, and how you should implement the controls into production environment. Yeah, and the last domain is domain number 8, which called software development security. Software development security, this is about the software, right? For me, it was I would say most hardest domain, because I am not so familiar with the programming languages and all of these development concepts. I was not so familiar, but well, I had some knowledge about how databases works, because I was a part of Oracle, right, and also have a good amount of knowledge about how the cloud works. But again, here was a lot of new things for me. Well, you can expect here that you will be familiar with the models of software development, like the waterfall model, agile, spiral model. You should be familiar with such kind of fancy things like the development operations, development secure operations, works and software capability models. They will ask you about the different types of malware which are presented in nowadays. You can here you can expect the questions about the type of security tests, what is the runtime, like what is ID, what tools you can use. They have topics about the database threats, the different type of software products where you have access to the source code, or where you have no access to the source code, and how you should test them in your environment. What is the best practices when you own with your software development, and so on, so on. Really interesting topic, and cover a lot of different aspects of the software security. Well, actually, it can say how you should develop a secure how you should develop the secure software. This is what this domain about, and this is the last one. But this is not the end of my webinar. I also wanted to cover not only the content, but also the things about exam and preparation, which I considered as important one. Let's also come back a little bit back. I forgot to mention that CISSP, I already mentioned that CISSP is very recognizable, right? But we have some, you definitely can find some proofs about it, because, for example, in USA, they have a Department of Defense and their own cyber forces. And to be hired there on the different positions, they have like this official certification chart, which certificates are considered as a proof that you have like expected level of knowledge. And you can see that CISSP are presented here in a lot of position, right? And the IAM level 2 and 3, and the IT, and the managers, of course, and so on. And even more, I have this one. Don't know who is Paul Jeremy, but we use this chart. He combined, I would say, all of the possible security certification into one big picture, which is a little bit interactive, and you can see that CISSP are actually on the expert, on the top level, on the expert level, and it covers all the topics, starting from network and a little bit security operations. So CISSP covering the whole field, right? And here it's interesting chart where you can find which professional security certifications are presented in the world nowadays. So coming back to my presentations, to my webinar and my presentation, let's talk about this one, right? We talked about the value, about the domains, and let's talk about the English. As I said already, I am not a native English speaker, and the problem that CISSP exam are not adopted or not adaptive for non-native English speakers, meaning that questions there can be tricky if you are not, I would say, IELTS 8 plus or C2 level plus. For me, it was a big deal, especially they're using some, for example, they're using some synonyms, yeah, right? one of my questions considered such things like a cross-site scripting attack, and if you will such thing like XSS attack, and if you will learn from the learning materials, the input validation are usually the control which you can implement to mitigate XSS type of attack. But in the question, there was the senior one, which is data sanitization, and you should. And this example can show you, like, will you be able to recognize that this is the same thing, right? You have a 1.5, around 90 seconds for each question, and you should be able to recognize things like that, that data sanitization in this case really mean input validation. Also, there is a lot of logic tricks, or maybe there is a better word for this in English, but at least what I mean here, there will be a little amount of the direct question, like, for example, the DNS protocol belongs to which layer of OSI models or something like that. There will be very little questions like this. The most amount of questions will be where you have some construct, which method are the least or which are the best in this situation. What if, like, what is the most important here, or least important here, and you will have at least 2, but mostly 3 or even 4 answers, which are all okay, and all are reasonable in this situation, and you should find the best. And to really find the best, or to find the least, you should understand all the situations, all the described situation, what is really going on there. And obviously, to understand this, you have to know the language, right? Because it's not sometimes it's not so easy. For example, you can, and it's also connected with the next one. Yeah, they give you sometimes like real life scenarios. They can say something like, okay, you have a facility and it's open from all the sides, and which type of which type of 2 controls fit better with this type of facility, yeah, and a lot of such kind of things. So please be aware that English is a big deal, and in my own opinion, I would say that 5 to 10% of the questions was really hard to understand, and I think I got some problems with the correct answers there because I don't really understand the question. So you can please keep this in your minds. Yeah, this can be a big deal. But let's go further, and the next topic. Here is the example. Yeah, I put this is a question from studying materials, maybe from the official guide, or don't exactly remember where, or maybe from this widely testing. Well, don't exactly remember where I took it from, but this is from the study materials. You can. Well, for me, it was a confusing. Yeah, well, negligence uses a reasonable person standard in the cyber security measures, showing necessary due care when working with PI, personal identifiable information. This is also known as. I know the correct answer, but how to translate this in Russian exactly? I would say this is a question a little bit more for the 90 seconds. But by the way, the correct answer here is a present person principle. And in the real exam, the question will be obviously harder than in the study materials. So I will also cover this a little bit later. So please consider this as an important topic. English is a big deal. CSSP mindset. The next thing, which you can often hear about the CSSP. Well, because of originally CSSP was designed for the higher level managers, they expecting you to think like a manager, to see a big picture, to answer on the questions, not from the technical perspective, not from the engineer position, but from the manager position. And this actually have some own hidden tricks behind it. First of all, when you reading some question, please keep in mind that you are manager, unless it's directly mentioned that you are not. You are manager. You are not the person who will do. You're a person who will advise, who will give. Like imagine yourself like the hired consultant, yeah, and given some situation, and you should give the best choice, the best course of actions. So you are like advisor, you are decision maker, but you are not the person who will actually, I don't know, can configure some technical thing, like configure some router or so on. This also tightly connected with these two principles: due diligence, due care. Meaning by due diligence, these are the things which you should which you should do before the action, and due care, this is the things which are expected to do after the decision made. For example, here you can expect that like audits are contained in the timely manner, yeah, or like awareness programs are also provided in the timely manner. And here you can expecting that you, before to implement something, you made the research, right? You conducted a risk analysis and maybe hired some consultants and so on. So due diligence, due care, and this is important in the real world, even due to the real responsibility. For example, as in the USA, you can expect that in case of some problems, you should prove that the higher management provided due diligence, because if they are not, they have a real risk to be to go into the prison, especially if this is a public company and investors lost a lot of money because of something, yeah. And is this something that happened because there is no due diligence and no due care in the company? So this one is important, and you should consider it, these two concepts when you reading the question. You can think like, they are asking you about what? About due diligence here or due care? And take a look from this perspective. You know your priorities. Yes, think big, think strategically. You are a manager. You are. You should see the big picture when you make decisions. What will be the most important part? I will show you on the sample question later. It covered it very well. As I told you before, like, don't touch advice. You are not a person unless it's mentioned directly. You are not the person who do. You are a person who advising. And also you should always consider the cost of surveillance, meaning the security controls should be financially effective. They should be profitable, meaning there is no reason to implement some control if the cost of this control will be more than potential losses from the risk, right? No, well, and there is a lot of real life scenarios where you should actually accept the risk, because implementing the necessary control will be too expensive. So not costed. Here is a sample question which covers think like a manager. In my opinion, covers it very well. This is I took it from one of the YouTube preparation guides. I think this is from some kind of open materials study questions or so on. Which factor is the most important item when it comes to ensuring security is successful in an organization? They're asking you which is the most important to rate your security as a successful one in the organization, right? And here you have the answers. The senior management support, the effective controls and implementation methods, which are like reasonable, right? Updated and relevant security policies and procedures, which are very reasonable, because without policies and procedures, you will have a chaos, right? You will not have a robust processes. And security awareness by all employees. This is also important topic. And of course, this one. So, but which one is the most important? And if you will try to think about it like globally, a big picture, you will understand that without this one, nothing else matters. Because if you don't have a support from your CEO, if the stakeholders, the owners, the higher management doesn't understand the value of security, then everything else is not so relevant, because without nothing will work. You have to convince and get confirmation that senior management are aware and considering security as an important thing. And then you can probably go to the policies, right? So here's the question about think like a manager. Without the management support, you will probably not achieve anything of this. For me, in my opinion, this is a good example. Let's talk about actual materials which I have used during my preparation. So, of course, I would definitely recommend you to start with the book, Official Study Guide, 9th edition. This is a big book, more than 1,000 pages, but this really cover all of the topics and all of the domains. And the information here is definitely enough to prepare and pass the exam. But the other thing that books are not so easy to read, and it spends a lot of time, and it's usually not enough from the point of that you do not have the perfect memory, right? And you also should use other preparations. I recommend you, well, I used this series also. Let me pause the commercial. Well, this one is Inside Cloud and Security YouTube channel, and the Pete Zerger here, who is the author of this course. In the 8 hours, he cover all the domains and give you like brief information. Well, I would say not brief and not very detailed, but the information about the most important topics from his perspective. And this was also really useful because it's easier to watch this and read the book. But still, I recommend read the book first and then starting to watch some YouTubes and coming back to the book in the topics where you feel that you are not understanding very well. And the third and last but not least, again, I would say even maybe one of the most important, you should do the practice tests. You should do them a lot to structure your knowledge, to get the feeling of the exam, like to prepare yourself for 4 hours in a row exam for more than 100 questions. Can you, are you like physically ready for it or not? And here I can recommend you the official ISC² application, which is called Learns app. It covers CISSP and also the cloud CISSP exam. But now we talk about the CISSP. Here really you can expect more than 3,000 questions and more than 8, not more than 8, actually 8 of simulations of a practice exam, meaning 8 times 125 questions in the format of the real exam from all of the domains. And when I prepared originally, after my first fail, I was not, after my first attempt when I failed, I was not aware about this application. I tried to pass the exam here. After I failed, I got something like 75, maybe 75 to 80%. But before my second attempt, when I used this application a lot, I constantly had 85 plus results, 85 plus to 90 plus % in these tests. I usually use the custom created tests with 50 or 100 questions. For example, like the application logic, or the questions which you have answered incorrectly, or the questions which you have not answered yet. So I combined these tests and tried them and tried until I got average 85 plus % of results here. And this was very helpful, but maybe in not the way which you think about, because the questions are not like on a real exam. They are much easier. They are usually very direct, very understandable, and definitely you should not suppose that you will see any of this question on real exam. So on a real exam, questions are harder and they are different, but still this application and this type of like sample tests helps you a lot, because it helps you to memorize, it helps you to build the connections in your head. For example, that cross-scripting side attack are mitigated by input validation, or like the SSO means sign-on, the single sign-on, or what is this SAML mean, or for whatever else. So it help you to build these connections in your head, that like this belongs to this, help you to memorize the material, because the amount of material is so big and so large that you just cannot be prepared always and every time, and you cannot memorize it completely. But tests will help you with that. What else I can say about the material, the content itself? You can usually hear the slogan that CISSP is 1 mile wide and 1 inch deep. I would say this is only the half true. The true would be CISSP is 1 mile wide, definitely, yeah, because there is so big amount of my topics there, but it's not 1 inch deep. It's more like 1 meter deep, or like 10 meters deep at least, because the level of detalization is not so high, but it's quite detailed. As I said you before, there you will be asked for different type of fires, or different type of cryptographic algorithms, and even maybe such kind of things, such kind of security models and different type of computer memory. Well, I guess this is all of my all of the material which I want to share with you today. The only thing, let's talk about what you can expect when you actually are going into exam. All exams should be taken in the Pearson VUE exam centers. You cannot take it from home. You should go into the test center. You will not. Okay, let's go back here, right? The exam essentials. One moment. Yeah, here. You have 4 hours, right? Maximum is 175 questions. This meaning like 1.5 minutes per question or so. You will not be able to go out. There will be no breaks. Breaks are spending your time. For example, if you want to go and drink some water, and one more, you cannot bring anything into the test room. You can only bring yourself. No water, no vocabularies, or like maybe only some kind of pills if you have to drink them, but still you cannot go away. You can, but you will waste your time, so please consider this also. And when exam will end, you will not know your results, meaning they told you that you will receive your result immediately, but this is not all the true. The truth is, when your exam is finished, you can see the message on the screen. Okay, your test is finished. Please go back to the examiner. So you will not see the result on the screen. And then you're going to the examiner, and he asking for results, print it and give it to you. And only then you can see if you passed or not. So first time when I failed, I saw the message, please go to the examiner. He gave me a print where I failed. And the second time when I passed, the same message was on the screen, your exam is finished, please go to the examiner. But the print was different, obviously. So this is about the actual day of the exam. At this point, I would say that my webinar is actually finished. Let me stop sharing, and colleagues, let me quickly read the chat if you maybe have some questions. Well, looks like there is no questions, so we can stop recording, I guess. Thank you, everyone, and see you later.